The 2025 Hercules Tires MAC Basketball Championships are returning to Atlantic City's iconic Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall for the 6th consecutive year, March 11th through the 15th, featuring 22 men's and women's teams. The tournament is fun for the family, featuring a band jam, Spirit Squad showcase, Kids Day, and mascot game. Don't miss the chance to be a part of the action to see who will cut down the nets and earn a spot in the big dance. Visit maxsports.com/basketball for more information.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station, serving all of South Jersey.
Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, there's Sixers news to get to. On a day when we could be talking football for 24 hours because of all the news and everything going on, of course the 76ers would just take a complete turd and drop it on our head in the middle of a Friday. So we will get to that this hour here on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up in less than 20 minutes from now, we will get into some more NFL. We'll talk with Ringer sports columnist and New York Times bestselling author Mirin. She's written multiple profiles on Zach Bond, Ashton Genty, and others who are all in the news this week. So we'll talk with her about the NFL at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis here on 97.3 ESPN. And as always, you guys can join the conversation 609-403-0973. Also, your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And, of course, we are live on my YouTube channel as well at Josh Hennig, so you can see inside the Ocean Casino Resort of Atlantic City Studios. Before we get to the football talk, because there's a ton of football news, we got to touch on the absolute too little too late news about Joel Embiid. So for those who might just be tuning in now, or maybe you've heard some talk about it, but you weren't really fully sure what was going on, okay? Here's the deal. The Philadelphia 76ers announced through a press release today that because of a knee injury, Joel Embiid is being shut down. After missing 39 of 58 games this season, Joel Embiid medically has been shut down for the rest of the season. And I have two major takeaways from this story. Number one, what took them so long? I mean, it feels borderline insulting that the Sixers organization drug this out for as many weeks as they did. All the times Joel Embiid has been injured this year, all the times Joel Embiid has gotten banged up, and now we have another failed handling of a league MVP. People forget Joel Embiid, league MVP, scoring champion, when healthy, one of the best players on the planet. Nonetheless, they have mismanaged him, the message around him, all season long. And I've gotten to the point now where I've been waiting for this news for weeks. This felt like this was inevitable, okay? And as I told Mike Gill earlier today on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN, to me, the decision should have been made 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, when the Sixers were quote-unquote at full strength, they had a 3-game stretch where they lost 3 games they should not have lost. The first one they lost was to a Detroit Pistons team without Cade Cunningham. Then they lost to a Milwaukee Bucks team with no Giannis Antetokounmpo on the court. And then they lost to a Toronto Raptors team that was without Brandon Ingram, who they just acquired, and multiple other starters. And don't forget that team was still recovering from giving up all the assets they did to get Brandon Ingram. That should have been the moment where this organization finally turned around and said, you know what? This season's not going as planned. Everyone is miserable. Joel does not look right. Let's just let this thing go. Let's just realize what everyone else has already realized. That we are an organization that's not going anywhere this year. And instead, you had to drag it out. You had to prolong this nightmare. The Philadelphia 76ers have not won a game since February 4th. They have not won multiple games in a row since January 28th and January 29th. They are in the midst of a losing streak of epic proportions. But yet I'm supposed to believe that now Joel Embiid has been ruled out for the season. This is the same team that has been giving Paul George injections, just to get him on the court. And in a city where we should be able to celebrate and keep living in the glow of a Super Bowl championship for the Philadelphia Eagles, this Sixers team just continues to drop turds on all of our heads. They are literally defecating on all of our existences as fans. It is embarrassing. It is just a horrible mess. I don't understand why it took them so long. They can tell me all they want about doctors. I don't really care. I feel like they drugged this out as long as they could for reasons that are unknown to me. And unknown to anybody that I can find talking about it. So, moving forward, no more Joel Embiid injury updates. Is he questionable? Is he day-to-day? Is he a game-time decision? No, he's out. And frankly, I have no idea if he's going to play, when he's going to play next year either. Because depending on what procedure he needs done, because he's going to need a procedure, right? You know, that was the reporting that was made originally by Lisa Salters weeks ago on ESPN television during the Sixers-Bucks game. That's the reporting that's been put out there by multiple people that Joel Embiid needs some sort of procedure of some sort done, because whatever they did to get him back last year basically crippled him, made him worse, stagnated recovery, something. So that's the Sixers news. That's the news that we had to touch on with that. All right. And you guys can tell me how you feel about the 76ers throughout the day, throughout the hour. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Let's get to the NFL. The NFL is in a weird cross-section of rumors versus reports right now. And, you know, today the reporting came out from the Athletic's NFL insider Diana Rossini about what the Philadelphia Eagles might be doing this offseason. And we're back to the whole Myles Garrett conversation. But we're going to be talking with Mirin Fader coming up in less than 10 minutes about Zach Bond and some others, because Zach Bond is in a very weird situation, because there seems to be a growing sentiment that Zach Bond is going to have a lot of suitors on the market. Here's some of what Diana Rossini said on the Scoop City podcast earlier today.
There are a lot of teams in on Zach Bond. I think he's going to be expensive for Philadelphia if they want to do it. I just think they may get outpriced there. So we'll see how that comes together.
You know, when you think about what you just said, that you are talking about a guy in Zach Bond who has gone from basically complete anonymity to being a high-value prospect. I will never blame a man for maximizing his dollar value on the open market. But as Zach Bond is smart, he stays in Philadelphia. And the Eagles get to him as soon as possible. And if you're Howie Roseman, you don't even let him get the free agency. You sit down with him as soon as you are allowed to by league rules. And you say, what can we do to keep you here? And if he gives you a number and you balk at it, then you don't deserve to keep him. Look, there are a lot of ways to manipulate salary caps. There are lots of ways to manipulate the flow of money. And I would tell Zach Bond, if you are pursuing a average annual value, we might not be the place for you. But if you have an overall number that you think is the value that you have earned, we are going to get you that number. But we're just going to be able to do it in a way that's going to maintain our salary cap flexibility. And if both sides can come to an agreement on that front, he'll be here. But the reality is, as Diana Rossini explains, when it comes to guys like Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and Zach Bond, all of them may be pieces, or shall I call them chess pieces, in a bigger game.
I would be surprised if Milton Williams stayed. It could happen, but I think they're going to make an effort here. But here's what some people are saying right now, that Howie's willing to move on from some of these guys because he's looking to make a big swing and take a big swing. And that big swing would be for Myles Garrett.
And the reason why this has legs of what Diana Rossini is saying is because of what Howie Roseman said this week in Indianapolis. This was on Pro Football Talks with Mike Florio and Chris Sims on NBC Sports. This is what Howie Roseman said about this offseason. And I want you to listen closely to what he is saying, because this is part of the reason why the door for Diana Rossini's report opens.
We got a really challenging offseason here. We have a lot of players, a lot of good players who contributed to our team that are free agents. We're not going to be able to keep them all. You know, I think we've kind of changed our dynamic a little bit, that we're going to have to play young players because of our salary cap situation and because of how many guys are under long-term contracts. And so it makes it even more a priority that myself, our staff, that we bring the right types of people into the building.
He talks about getting younger, talks about I can't bring back everyone, talks about how, hey, I need to make sure that I get with my team and we bring in the right kinds of people. Some very, very interesting verbiage. Again, Howie Roseman at the podium 3 days ago now, this was on Tuesday, talked about managing the cap resources.
Everything really is player dependent. You know, when we talk about situations, it depends on the quality of play of the player, the person that we're talking about. And so you don't want to make any exceptions. Obviously, you have to have a vision of how you want your team to look. In the salary cap era, you have a certain number of resources that you can allocate, whether it's money or draft picks. And so whenever you do something, you're taking it from somewhere else. I mean, there's no way at the stage we are with our team that we can do something major without it coming from somewhere else.
You guys tell me how you feel. Myles Garrett, is that enough to offset the loss of Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and potentially other players in free agency. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up next, we'll go deeper into the players involved in all these reports and rumors with Mirin Fader, New York Times bestselling author and sports columnist and writer for The Ringer. Joining me next on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios of Atlantic City.
It's a college basketball doubleheader. Tomorrow on ESPN Radio. First in Charlottesville, Virginia faces Clemson, who continues to fight for the top of the ACC. Kansas, the Jayhawks face the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Clemson and Virginia, followed by Texas Tech and Kansas.
The college basketball season continues tomorrow afternoon on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at noon.
Trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, where one call does it all. From leaks and stoppages to full renovations, Jenkins has been the go-to choice since 1949. Renovating your kitchen or bath? Call Jenkins. Need new heating or air conditioning installation, service, or maintenance? They do that too. Jenkins handles it all. Ductless air systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, drain cleaning, and even water or sewer main repairs. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you bought that TV in a parking lot. It just happened to not come in a box or include a remote. And when you finally managed to turn it on, all it displayed was the menu of Grumpy's Tacos. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. NHL, the Flyers head to Winnipeg Saturday. They'll take on the Jets, who lead the NHL in wins this season with 42. Philadelphia losing Thursday night to the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-4 in overtime, snapping a 3-game win streak, but they still earn a point. Matvei Michkov with 2 goals in the loss. NBA, the Sixers hosting Golden State on Saturday. Philadelphia's lost 9 straight. They fell to the Knicks on Wednesday at the Garden. The Warriors have won 5 in a row and 7 of their last 8. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED, because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/radio, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Welcome to the weekend. We've got plenty of sunshine and dry weather coming up, but some wild temperature swings as well. A few clouds tonight, low of 43 degrees. Tomorrow, on the warm side, high of 59 with sun and clouds. It is going to get windy tomorrow. And then Sunday, cold and blustery. Sunny skies, high of only 36. Still cold Monday, high 39 with more sunshine. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
This is New Jersey Human Services Commissioner Sarah Edelman. Home health aides and direct support professionals are in high demand, and this important part of our workforce is essential in helping older adults and individuals with disabilities to live active, engaged lives. New Jersey Human Services can help connect you with jobs and training in these critical and rewarding fields. Make a difference in the lives of others while empowering your own future. Visit jobsthatcare.nj.gov today. That's jobsthatcare.nj.gov.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
To kind of put us in a box and say, hey, we're not going to play. And I'm not saying that you're saying that we're not going to pay because historically we haven't done that. I mean, part of what we do is evolve and look at things and see how things are affecting our team, how things are affecting the league, and seeing our place in that.
The place of the Philadelphia Eagles in the league right now seems to be the center of the universe, not just because they won the championship, but because it seems like they're involved in so many rumors every offseason. And the big name player of the offseason for Philadelphia is Zach Bond. You saw him at the top of that list of free agents, and someone who just wrote a piece recently about Zach Bond. For whatever reason, every time she writes articles about people, they go on to do pretty big things. Zach Bond wins the championship. Giannis wins the championship. 2 times New York Times bestselling author of Giannis and Dream. Mirin Fader is back with us here on 97.3 ESPN. Mirin, I did not know that you had that kind of oomph in your writing. Everyone you write about seems to go on to do something pretty big. How do you feel about that?
It's great to see you, Josh. I mean, I just want some of that magic to go towards my own budding athletic, being in the gym and all of that. I need a little bit of my own juice, I guess.
Well, maybe next time you talk to any of these guys, you could ask them, can you borrow some? Yeah, maybe
exactly.
They got some like in a bag or something. They can sprinkle it on you. Maybe.
Just give me the tricks. Just tell me the secret sauce.
Well, speaking of the secret sauce, I part of the reason why I wanted to have you on is because, you wrote about Zach Bond, and that guy has gone from literally anonymity to now the Athletics' Diana Rossini saying he's going to have a lot of suitors if he hits free agency. And for you, you documented in The Ringer his journey from he didn't know he was being drafted coming out of Wisconsin to then basically having a very, for lack of a better term, underwhelming role in New Orleans, and now the guy is a Super Bowl champion. I mean, talk about a journey of let's make a movie about this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. It was never supposed to happen. I mean, at every part of his life, you think, okay, how does this guy get past this level? And then he gets past this level. And it's totally improbable. I mean, the funniest part of it all was realizing that football wasn't even something he was passionate about. He loved basketball. He played tennis. I mean, he was somebody that was an excellent track athlete. He was a high jumper. So, the people that I spoke to said, he had a chance to go pro and do things in other sports. I mean, football was really an afterthought for such a long time. If not for these coaches that intervened in his life, I don't know if he would have gotten the shot that he did.
That's fascinating, the part you said at the end there. You don't know if you would have gotten that shot, which is an interesting conversation because, there's that tug of war, right? Because I said before you came on, I will never begrudge any of these guys of maximizing their value. I'm a big believer in if someone's willing to give you life-changing money, do it, man. Go get your money. But at the same time, you are here because someone took a shot on you. So, that is a huge balancing act for a guy like Zach Bond who he's going to be 30 in a couple of years, right? This is not a young guy, and he's now approaching a point where he's at a crossroads of, hey, I could leave and get money, or I could stay with the place that, for lack of a better term, made me where I am today.
Yeah, I mean, what it shows is that environment and leadership is as valuable as anything. We live in this culture of, do they pass the eye test and all this individualistic things? And Zach is great proof that you cannot pass these tests, but if you surround yourself with the right coaches who believe in you and give you a shot, you have a chance to be successful. I mean, he doesn't even get recruited to Wisconsin. The track coach is the one who finds him and tells the football staff, you've got to look at with this guy. And they're like, no, they blow him off for like a couple weeks. And so if not for a track coach discovering him, I mean, would he even have made the football team? So you flash forward to now and you see the incredible job that he's doing and you see how high his ceiling is. It just goes to show you cannot predict success from a young age. You just never know. Even his first 4 years in the NFL, those were nothing remarkable, but there was enough potential and enough film on him in college that coaches decided, hey, let's give him a chance. So environment is everything.
It absolutely is. And, it kind of goes to make my mind at least go back because, your two books, the one about Giannis Antetokounmpo and the one about Hakeem Olajuwon, it's the same story with them. If those two guys did not enter certain environments, and we'll get to another guy you've written about in a little bit because he's at the Combine, a big name at the Combine this week is Ashton Genty. Before we get to him, Zach Bond, Giannis, Hakeem, all of these guys, they are literally byproducts of, whatever you want to think. You want to thank God, you want to thank fortune, whatever it is. They got put in the right place at the right time in the right situation to put them on a trajectory.
Yes, although as you were saying that, I would also add that they all played many sports, and that actually goes against a lot of what these young, football players are taught. They're taught to specialize. They're taught to just do one thing. And I know, of course, many football players do dual sports. We see that all the time, kickers, all that. But really, it speaks to all of the people that I've covered that most of the ones that are most successful don't specialize. And I think the fact that Zach is able to do what he's doing at this year in his career and has the body to withstand all the years he's played, I just have to think part of it is because he played multiple sports and developed different muscles.
Let's get to that really quick. By the way, Mirin Fader joining us, New York Times best-selling author. She's also senior staff writer for The Ringer. Athletes playing multiple sports, right? They used to be like the legendary thing, right? Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, and that kind of went away for a while. And I'm almost starting to wonder, are we kind of like the pendulum swinging back the other direction? Because I feel like a lot of these athletes, the ones, like you said, are being the most productive professionally. They are the ones who were not just single-minded as they were developing in their younger years.
Yeah, I definitely think we are seeing that pendulum swing. And part of it is because we just have more information on our bodies and our joints and how maybe 8-year-olds should not be playing, a million games in one weekend in one sport. Maybe you should let them have seasonal sports, kind of like we used to. And, I see so many professional athletes now that were one track mind and were only basketball, and you see their bodies break down. And I just, I think the science is pretty clear on this. Being a multi-sport athlete is so beneficial for so many reasons.
Now, back to Bond here, because what I think is interesting about part of the profile you did with The Ringer is you talk about how at the end of his tenure with the Saints, he didn't really know what was next for him.
Right.
And what's interesting is that, when he came to Philadelphia, and it's almost like it was prophetic, all of us, we assumed, we didn't really know, okay, let's be honest, we didn't really know, okay, we assumed, well, I mean, Vic Fangio's the new coordinator, he told Howie Roseman to go get him, and then 3 months later, Fangio in front of me was like, oh yeah, let me tell you all about Zach Bond, and he's going on, and we're all looking at each other like, what's going on here? Like Vic Fangio is giving us a full breakdown of this guy that we've never heard of. And he was almost prophetic about it. And it's amazing that a guy like Fangio, who was resoundingly hated in Miami, the Dolphins players acted like he was the Antichrist. And he comes to Philadelphia and he's like, see that guy, Zach Bond? Him. I want him. And he goes on to be an all-pro.
Well, and exactly. And, the quotes from Fangio and his other coaches in the story were just it was so interesting to me how adamant they were that when they got Zach and they knew they were getting Zach, they said he's going to be a starter right away. They knew that about him, which I thought was so interesting because it's not like he had this great body of work in the pros to look through. And the college film was enough, but also just his size, the way he moves, his instincts, those were enough for them to say no, this guy is a player. And they get him out there and it's so clear to everyone, he's our guy. And I just think that's so interesting, kind of like what we're talking about environment. Sometimes when you know, But it also had to take maturity from Zach, right? Like, I think he could have easily badmouth the Saints or, made excuses for his lack of productivity. It was so refreshing to learn how much responsibility he took for his lack of productivity. And, he said in the piece, he was like, I really didn't take advantage. I didn't know what that meant. And, having gone through that, I had to go through that to learn what it took to really maximize an opportunity. And I think getting signed to a 1-year deal is the definition of an opportunity. You have to take it. You have to, kill it. And he did exactly that.
I'm going to go back and pick off something you said about the quality of person that he is, because that has been a theme in Philadelphia in the second iteration of the Howie Roseman era. And, for those who might not remember, it goes back to 2016 when Josh Huff, the former Oregon receiver, was pulled over on a bridge coming out of Philadelphia. And the guy had an open bottle in his car. He had a gun fully exposed. The Eagles didn't put out a press release to be like, oh, well, we love you. No, they were like, we're done with him. He's out of here. And it set a precedent that for years to come, Philadelphia has prioritized the quality of the person almost more than the talent on the field. And obviously it's paid off with 2 championships in the last 7 years, but it's almost like there's a marriage here, because you're worried about a guy in Zach Bond who has all of these check marks, right? The work ethic, the person, the this and the that. And it's like those are the same check marks that Howie Roseman has said this week in Indianapolis about how we need to make sure that the people we bring into this organization are in line with the values of our locker room.
Yeah, he fits that incredibly well. And he doesn't just, talk about it. He really embodies it. Like, he is somebody that like teammates can come to in that locker room. He's very open about his mental health. Like, he is somebody he's just exactly what you want in a veteran. And that's why he's so respected there. And that's why he fits that profile. It's also, the theme of selflessness. If he was a star all his life and he had everything come to him, he would not have that demeanor. But because he's gone through adversity and difficulties and, being so under the radar and having to be patient, that developed that character. And there are so many guys on that team who fit that similar vibe.
And now you got me thinking of the doctor from Captain America who said the man who knows strength his whole life does not appreciate it, but the man who does not know strength his whole life will appreciate it. So it's kind of the same thing with sports. It's like,
really
when you reach that level, you appreciate it more because it wasn't handed to you.
And that's the thing that was so nice about seeing Zach win, is that you could just tell that it was so meaningful. Like, anyone who wins, it's meaningful. But for him, it's like, this was never supposed to happen. You had to earn it. And you had to go through so much crap to get there. His injury alone, you take that one thing in his college career and that would have did it for anyone else. But the fact that he had to change positions and do all of these things and, really just come back and show that, hey, I'm an NFL player, and now everybody wants him.
We're talking with New York Times bestselling author Mirin Fader, author of the books Giannis and Dream. Of course, she profiled Zach Bond over at TheRinger.com. And another player who is kind of in that similar mold where they were anonymous and then they worked their tail off and now they're somebody is Ashton Genty. And there's a lot of people who are talking about him as whatever you want to compare him to. I'm hearing people compare him to Tony Dorsett. I'm hearing people compare him to all kinds of great running backs. And the young man is as humble as can be. They literally are asking him at the podium this week, about to say, like, well, I grew up a Cowboys fan, but they haven't talked to me this week, so I'll just go wherever, I'm supposed to go. And it's just like just you hear that, it just warms your heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? It's so genuine with him. He's one of the most kind athletes I've ever interviewed. It's when you were saying that, it reminded me of, the story about him having, so he's moved everywhere his whole life because military family, all of that. But when he gets to Italy by way of Virginia, he's an 8th grader and he has to wait until his turn to play. And it sucks because you want to play football and you want to do all that. Meanwhile, in America, they're doing all these 7-on-7 things. He's missing out. This is the time to start getting recruited. And he's just like, okay, I'm going to wait my turn. I'm going to work. And I really think it's the same way now. He's just like, I'm working. Whoever picks me is going to pick me. There's just a confidence and a assuredness about him, and it's amazing because, like Zach, nobody really knew who he was. I mean, he didn't even start till his senior year of high school. He played defense all throughout high school, which is just awesome.
Which is wild because that's another thing to your point earlier about athletes cross playing against different sports.
Right.
You know, I'm reading the book right now, The Why Is Everything by Mike Silver, about all the coaches from Shanahan's team in Washington. And one of the things they talk about in the book is basically Mike Shanahan told everybody, you got to work on the other side of the ball before you're ever able to be a good head coach. So like every one of those guys, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, Robert Saleh, like all these guys, Raheem Morris, they've all had jobs where they had to work the other side of the ball than their expertise, and it made them better. And you have to wonder, the same deal probably goes with the players themselves, right? You know, playing defense probably helps an offensive player and vice versa.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I also think like it's given him such an IQ for the game that's so high that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. I mean, especially because some of the things he's able to do, like the hurdling over people, like some of the things he does are so insane physically that it's hard to appreciate really what it is more than any physical skill he was blessed with or anything like that. Athleticism is, he talked about with me, his mental toughness. And so whether it's knowledge of these different positions and how the game is played, or just, you know, the mental side of the ball and being so tough to withstand the kind of beating he does, you know, it's just a big part of his game that I feel like people should talk about more, especially if you think about like running backs and what they go through and how versatile you have to be nowadays and all of that. Like he's really does so many things well.
Which is wild because I feel like if it wasn't for what happened this year in the NFL, a guy like Ashton Genty may not be talked about as a top 10, 15 pick. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles and Josh Jacobs going to the Packers and Derrick Henry going to the Ravens, and it's like the re-evaluation of the running back. And now a team can look at Genty and say, well, I can draft him instead of going and getting a running back at free agency.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I profiled Bijan Robinson last season, and it was about him, but it was about this larger convo about like, do running backs matter anymore and all of this. And, you know, it's a fascinating turn. And I think Genty is part of this new school that, you know, yes, they do. And he just brings so much. Like I literally cannot think of one thing that he doesn't do well.
The only thing I can think of right now is that Bijan obviously missed out on the pixie dust. You sprinkled on everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean that guy is at
It's not foolproof. It's not foolproof.
I mean the guy, poor guy, he's had 2 miserable years in Atlanta. Like good grief.
Environment is everything, right?
Right, exactly. Which is interesting because before I let you go, you mentioned environment is everything.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking about his time at Boise State.
Yeah.
And how like everyone was kind of like putting him in positions to be successful, right? And he kept turning it into, no, I want the quarterback to be successful. I want my receivers to be successful. And it's like a two-way street that like everyone has to be bought in. You know, the saying from Nick Sirianni this year was you cannot be great without the greatness of others. The idea of it takes a collective to be successful. And it's like moving forward, do we start looking at sports in general maybe a little differently now? Maybe trying to identify that a little bit more to say, hey, a guy like Bijan Robinson, maybe if he didn't go to Atlanta and maybe if he went somewhere else, you know, maybe their fortunes are different.
Yeah, and I mean, you know better than me in the football landscape, but I feel like that's such a prevalent discourse in basketball all the time. It's all about environment, and you know, I hear it all the time, and I wish we did talk about it more because it's not like, you know, a situation, fit, depth chart, all these things matter. It's like a million things need to go right for somebody to fit well on a team. That's why I find it amazing that when people are drafted and it does go well, that is so amazing because it isn't just, does he pass the eye test? What are his stats? Do we like him as a person? Do you have to fit with so many other people and so many other things? And so I know obviously front offices are talking about that, but I wish it was something more talked about in media, because there's just a lot that goes into whether somebody can flourish or not. And it's not just purely, do they have this skill or not?
Absolutely. She's Mirin Fader, of course. She is author of 2 New York Times bestselling author of 2 books, Giannis and Dream. Of course, you got all of her articles over at theringer.com, and give her a follow on social media at Mirin Fader. I appreciate you jumping back on. I feel like we can have this conversation for like the next 2 hours, but I do have to let you go, and I got to go to a commercial break. So I do appreciate you taking time to jump back on with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We'll check back on the text board coming up next, 609-403-0973 in your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
Tonight on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA basketball, the 20th ranked Purdue Boilermakers host the UCLA Bruins. Hi, this is Wayne Larrabee. Join all Big West shooting guard Mike Wozniak and me for all the Big Ten action as these 2 blue bloods battle it out on the hardwood. Number 20 Purdue hosting UCLA. If it's NCAA basketball, it's right here.
The college basketball season continues tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 8 p.m.
Sometimes it feels like the world is moving at hyperspeed and you can't keep up because it's one thing then another. And don't forget the meeting and the yoga class and the dinner reservation. But then you get into the all-new Nissan Murano and you feel the breeze from the panoramic moonroof while the massaging seats melt away the tension of the day. And you realize that sometimes the greatest rush is not rushing at all. Shop the all-new Murano at nissanusa.com. Panoramic moonroof massaging leather appointed seats are available features.
You still thinking job change in the new year? Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy. IT? Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI. That's what I did. Really? How? Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up. Sweet. Are classes online or on campus? Both. Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
Things are just better when you switch to Cricket. The sun shines a little brighter. Happy music starts randomly playing. Best of all, you can get iPhone 13 for just $29.99. With the ultra-bright Super Retina display and up to 19 hours of video playback, all on Cricket's super-fast 5G network. See? Isn't that better? Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new account and port in on $60 plan. First service charge, tax to its sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a Colonial with high ceilings, hardwood floors, and a peaceful neighborhood. And you found it. Now, every Saturday at 6 a.m., you get to wake to the sound of your neighbor's leaf blower. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Hey, if you have ugly yellow toe fungus, you got to hear about the secret 2-minute trick that I found for my husband. It works from both the inside and the outside. Thousands of people are using it to get rid of their toe fungus. You can check it out at crystalflesh.com. Jake started off with a small spot on his big toe and then it spread and got really bad. His toes were nasty. It was so embarrassing. He was afraid to take his socks off. He hid his yellow and crumbly toes from everyone. He tried everything to get rid of it. Nothing helped. And then we found crystalflesh.com. It was the only thing that worked. In just a few weeks, his toes looked amazing. He's now walking around barefoot again. You guys need to try this. I'm telling you, this stuff is different. It's not sold in stores, but go check it out at crystalflesh.com. They'll even let you try it risk-free so you have nothing to lose. But whatever you do, don't let it get worse. You don't have to live with this anymore. Go check it out now. Just click over to crystalflush.com.
Spring forward with real unlimited data from Straight Talk this tax season and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. So you can stream games during Mad March hours, check the weather for April showers, and watch gardening videos about May flowers. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 4/15/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires purchase of single line Gold Unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-498-6548. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-498-6548. That's 800-498-6548. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
We'll check the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. Thanks again to Mirin Fader for joining us here. Also, don't forget about the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, which is free. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle. I'm glad we could have that conversation with Mirin Fader from the Ringer, because I wanted to bring to all of you something different, which is when I've been listening to Howie Roseman speak this week, he keeps bringing up about the quality of people that are important to put in that locker room. That it's more than just, I need to add talent. Because as I said, this organization learned the hard way that just acquiring talent is not enough. It's not enough to have a collection of guys who are really good, okay? The world of sports are not video games. You can't just acquire people and then be like, it's going to work because of X, Y, Z. No, there's way more to it than that. You know, Howie Roseman has talked numerous times about, having the right people in that locker room, the quality of the people in the organization. And it's more than just Saquon Barkley is a great player. It's more than Zach Bond is a great story. It's more than A.J. Brown is reading a book on the sidelines. It's what is under the surface of that. And I understand for some people, digging deeper than the low-hanging fruit that's out there, it's very convenient, it's very easy, and it sometimes will get you views and clicks. But I genuinely believe that when I picked the Eagles to win the championship this year, I wasn't picking them just because I'm an Eagles fan. I wasn't picking them just because I cover the team all year long. I wasn't picking them just because the team literally only had one loss from their bye week until the biggest game of the year, that being Super Bowl 59. It was because of the belief of we over me. It was the uniting of these players. And nothing against Kansas City. I'm not denying that they don't love each other and believe in each other, but there was something different about Philadelphia's vibe. There was something different in the belief in each other and this team and the organization that I just wasn't sure that Kansas City was going to be able to match full on. And now as we look to the offseason, how do you one-up that? How do you take something that was so unique and so special and cannot be replicated and try to move on from that? And that's where the offseason rumor mill and the reports start ramping up when Howie Roseman says this on Wednesday on Pro Football Talk on NBC Sports.
We got a really challenging offseason here. We have a lot of players, a lot of good players who contributed to our team that are free agents. We're not going to be able to keep them all. You know, I think we've kind of changed our dynamic a little bit, that we're going to have to play young players because of our salary cap situation and because of how many guys are under long-term contracts. And so it makes it even more a priority that myself, our staff, that we bring the right types of people into the building.
And that's why I do still believe that Zach Bond is going to be back here. But it's also why I believe that Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and some other guys will not be back here. I doubt Avonte Maddox is coming back. I'm 50-50 on Kenny Gainwell. Brandon Graham is basically, if he wants to retire or not, Becton to me is a 50-50. The reason why all those guys are 50-50 is because there's only so many resources to go around. You can't sign everyone, as Howie Roseman explained on Tuesday.
Everything really is player dependent. You know, when we talk about situations, it depends on the quality of play of the player, the person that we're talking about. And so you don't want to make any exceptions. Obviously, you have to have a vision of how you want your team to look. In the salary cap era, you have a certain number of resources that you can allocate, whether it's money or draft picks. And so whenever you do something, you're taking it from somewhere else. I mean, there's no way at the stage we are with our team that we can do something major without it coming from somewhere else.
And I think, again, that is a huge part of this conversation. The reality that you can only do so much with the resources given to you. So if you only can do so much with the resources given to you, then how do you proceed? How do you evolve and grow and advance from there? And I don't think it's a coincidence that this Eagles team had a certain level of success, and now the Myles Garrett rumors come up. Why? Because if you can't replicate a special formula, then you have to create a new formula, okay? It's the idea that in the business world, Pepsi years ago realized they couldn't replicate Coke's formula. So they tried to make their own variation of Coke's formula. But they made it so good, Coke thought they had to change their own formula. And so it creates this cycle where if the Eagles keep, as Howie Roseman puts it, evolving, if they keep growing, if they keep advancing, then other teams are going to be kept off balance. It's like in a fight. If you have a fighter who has spent the first couple rounds of a matchup fighting in the southpaw position, and then they immediately switch to orthodox. For those who don't know, the uninitiated, southpaw is left-handed as your primary power hand, and your right hand is in front. For traditional stance is left hand in front, and right hand is your power hand. So if you're switching positions in the middle of a fight, you are evolving in the midst of competition, and you're throwing your opponents off. And I think that is part of what Philadelphia is trying to do. And that's why the Myles Garrett stuff is legitimate. All right, before we get out of here, a couple things. I am so glad that Matthew Stafford is back with the Rams because, one, it makes one of the good guys in sports media look like a genius. Peter Schrager had been saying for a very long time that Matthew Stafford will be back with the Rams. Peter Schrager, he hosts a podcast with Sean McVay every week. The man has been vindicated, and it just goes to show you that there are people who are trying to report the truth in this business and not just try to report clickbait headlines. That's one. Two, there was no situation that Matthew Stafford could have gone to. The Giants, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Browns, the Colts, the Raiders, none of those opportunities would have made a better environment for him to be successful. The best situation for him to be in was with the Rams, a Rams team that was arguably the closest team to taking out Philadelphia in the entire postseason. And finally, to Ashton Genty, I hope the Cowboys don't draft you, because it would be so appropriate for Genty to go somewhere else and make the Cowboys' life miserable. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, producer Nick Earnshaw, and my twin brother Bobby Schwein join me in the studio. High school basketball and wrestling tournaments are in full swing, and we will hear from head coach of the Pittman boys basketball team, Ron Myers, before they face Burlington City in Group 1 play. Mr. Negadelphia PJ Corda is next, brought to you by the Galloway Pool Service. And Negadelphia will share his pithy thoughts on the Philly sports scene. Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, talk and more. It's the locker with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, so this is the post show. For those who are tuning in for the first time, thank you for watching. At Josh Hennig on my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, where we get into some other topics after the main show is done. And I kind of wanted to just do a quick extension on that conversation about quality of human beings. I genuinely don't think it's a coincidence that all the people who didn't like Vic Fangio in Miami all were losers this past year. Now, I know part of it was Tua Tagovailoa got injured, but there were a lot of guys in Miami who acted like Vic Fangio was a bad guy. And Fangio comes to Philadelphia, and everyone loves him. Everyone appreciates him. All the players respect him, look up to him. You got guys like Nolan Smith saying, I want more of Fangio. I hope he coaches the rest of my career, he says. And I think that it just goes to show you, to further the point about the quality of these human beings is important. We have, if you're of a certain age, okay, I know for some of you who are older, you didn't grow up with like this. But if you are of age 40 or younger, a huge portion of your childhood and teenage years was inundated with people who were popular, who were not quality human beings. Role models have been completely turned upside down in today's world. And I think it's so important that we get back to emphasizing character and quality of a person and honesty and genuine nature, because we live in a society full of so much fraud, so much, I'm going to put on this mask for everybody to see on social media. And what people do is they fall in love with the charade you put out front. And the same thing happens to every walk of life. Look at these athletes. People keep treating A.J. Brown like he's someone he's not. A.J. Brown is not what you want him to be. A.J. Brown is not who you think he is. A.J. Brown is someone who is not a diva. He is not a self-absorbed child. A.J. Brown is someone who has some issues he works through. And he does so by trying, keyword trying to do it in a way that does not create contention and adversarial relationships with his teammates. But instead of people respecting that, people keep reading into it, he's a diva. He wants to be throwing the ball. They're projecting onto him what they think he is instead of embracing who he is. And because we live in a world where being authentic is frankly not appreciated very much, okay? Let's be honest, all right? most of the people who are truly authentically themselves are not very beloved. It's the people who put on a good show, a good charade, a good welcome to the circus vibe. They're the ones who typically get praised and glorified and amplified. It's like the whole controversy with some of these athletes in college. Look at the whole fiasco that happened last year with the female athletes in college. The whole Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. At no point in time did Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese ever get up and say, I hate the other woman. But people were so enamored with the idea of it's this girl versus this girl, and it's worlds colliding, and they just made it up. It was never true. The two women, they're hyper-competitive individuals, but neither one of them are bad people. Now, you could argue that both women, now that they're professionals, don't fully appreciate or understand the optics of who they are in today's world. I think that, both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, could use a little help when it comes to their marketing, because no offense to Angel Reese, but no one's buying the Burger King sandwich because you're promoting it, okay? Angel Reese, she should be promoting the fact that she is a bit of a villain. And Caitlin Clark, she's doing a better job than Angel Reese because she's promoting the fact that she's a babyface. If you go to wrestling terms, babyface versus heel. And instead of them leaning into their, for lack of a better term, roles in society, and I know that terminology might be polarized, but hear me out for a second. It would help both of them not just elevate their own brands and make themselves more money for their families and their generations to come, but it also elevate the sport. Women's college basketball helped elevate the WNBA. Both sports are more popular than ever before. There has never been a time in my lifetime where anyone cared about women's college basketball on major sports shows until the last couple of years. And the same thing goes to other areas of sport. You have these athletes who are constantly trying to be something they're not because they think they have to fit into this fraudulent world that's been created by social media. And to see athletes like A.J. Brown and Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley and even Jalen Hurts be authentically themselves, even though them being authentically themselves doesn't fit in with the mold of what society expects and wants them to be, they're still doing it. And it makes me even more glad they won a championship because it's an opportunity for the world to see these athletes for who they are and not who some people on Instagram or Twitter X or TikTok want them to be. And so again, I'm happy Stafford is staying with the Rams because that's where he belongs. That's where he's going to be the best version of himself. And I hope Zach Bond stays with the Eagles because he would not be the man he is today if it wasn't for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I genuinely hope that a lot of these athletes start looking at A.J. Brown's model and say, I can be authentically myself. And yes, I'm rooting for Ashton Genty because unlike Drake, he legitimately started from the bottom and now he is here. These are the things that get me excited in sports outside of cheering on my own team. Because guess what? The Sixers are a dumpster fire. The Flyers are not going to the postseason because they're in a rebuild this year. And the Phillies are frankly 2 months away from playing relevant baseball. So yes, I am going to latch on to the best stories possible in sports. And I am going to applaud the people who deserve applause. And I'm going to give a thumbs down to people who deserve a thumbs down. Like Jerry Jones. The man literally shows up in Indianapolis late, bypasses all of the media work so he can go meet with other owners. The man is a shyster. He's a great businessman, but his people skills leave a lot to be desired, and the man is a know-it-all. And I'm not a fan of know-it-alls. If anyone knows me, I want to learn. I like to evolve and grow my mind and flex those brain cells. And yeah, maybe I'm a bit of a geek for that, okay? Maybe I'm a bit of a nerd because I want to know how to maximize everything in my life, my mind, my body, my everything. But to me, it's the people who want to grow and evolve, I think, are the best kinds of people. Not the people who think they know everything, not the people who think that it's their way of the highway. Because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to open your eyes to reality, you're just going to walk through life with confirmation bias. For those who don't know, confirmation bias is basically you walk into situations and environments and try to find evidence that confirms what you already believed coming into that conversation or environment or situation. And I see it all the time. I think it's easier for me to handle with sports fans because with sports fans, hey, if we disagree, it's not the end of the world. We can still be friends. We can still hang out. We can still have conversation. But when it's non-sports topics, when it's real world stuff, right, then it gets really awkward and really uncomfortable because now you're arguing with somebody and you're creating an environment where you're the blind man and the elephant. And I'll just explain that story before I let everybody go. For those who don't know, the blind man and the elephant is one of my favorite stories that we discussed in psychology when I was in college, which now was 20 years ago. Man, I am climbing up there in years. Got enough gray hair on the side of my sideburn to prove it. But anyway, so for those who don't know, I love the story, The Blind Man and the Elephant. So the story goes is that a bunch of researchers grab a bunch of blind men and they send them into a room with an elephant. And each blind man is supposed to come back with a description. And then the blind men come back and start arguing about the elephant. One man says, no, the elephant is strong like a tree trunk. And the other one says, no, it's thin like a feather. And the other one says, no, it's thick and flexible. And the other one says, no, it's smooth and round. And another one says, no, it's thin and wispy. And all of them have a half truth. All of them have a piece of the larger pie because they're blind. They don't have any other reference point. If each one of them would have walked around the whole of the elephant and used that as their description, they would have learned more. They would have opened their minds to the reality that each blind man is telling a piece of the truth. But instead, they're stuck on their description, that they're right and the other guy is wrong. And the same thing goes in reality. One of the beautiful things about sports is that we can have debates and maybe we can learn something from each other. I'm a big believer in I'm not smarter than you. I'm here to share with you what I have learned so we can all benefit from it. And if I can learn something from somebody else, like listening to a player's podcast or listening to a former coach speak or reading a book, all of those things will benefit me, but also benefit all of you who listen to me on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, and right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. I'll be back on 97.3 ESPN on Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern. I don't know if we will have time to get to any shows over the weekend. If I do, we will. I'll definitely get a new addition to my Truth About series next week. Yeah, I have a few topics lined up for that series, which is going to be more than just sports. It's going to be about health and fitness, movies, so on and so forth. So I got a lot of content to get to with that series. I will give you guys a tease. One of the upcoming Truth About subject is going to be about caffeine. So for all of you energy drink, coffee, caffeine, pro, against, whatever your position is, you'll learn something with that podcast. Anyway, thank you for watching. I got to get back to work. Have a great night, everybody. Take care, and I'll catch you next time right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig.